Brain, which for the rest of the video will not be said because, well, I don't want to swear on this channel, is a programming language created by Urban Miller. It was created with the goal of having the smallest compiler possible. The end result was a 240-byte compiler for Amiga OS. Now, in order to have such a tiny compiler, the language itself has to be extremely simple. Because of that, this language has an extremely tiny amount of commands, having only 8. So, what do these commands do? Well, this language stores data in a one-dimensional array of cells, and you are currently pointing to a cell. You can go left, and you can go right. You can also add one and subtract one from the current cell. You can take input and store it into the cell, and you can output the ASCII character that corresponds to whatever value is inside of the cell. You can also loop between commands as long as the value of the current cell is not 0. That's it. I just explained the entire language in about 30 seconds, but it is quite difficult to actually make something useful due to the limitations of only having 8 commands. Anyway, let's write a program in it. This program writes all the ASCII characters over and over again. But that's not that interesting. Let's write something that outputs text that actually makes sense. Writing these 5 characters onto the screen should be simple enough, right? So the first letter, B, has a ASCII code of 66, so we can multiply 6 by 11 like this. To multiply things, you can run a loop of additions, like this, which makes getting the correct value of an ASCII character so much easier, since you don't need to type 66 individual pluses just to create the capital letter B. Anyway, now we can print the character. Next, we can add 16 to that, and we will get the R. To get the A, we can subtract 16 and then subtract one more. The I, add 8. N, add 5. That's only 5 characters, and yet the code already looks confusing. But since there are only 8 commands in the entire language, that's pretty much the only way to write text. Well, you can store text into other cells and use them later, so instead of adding 16 to B to get R just to subtract the 16 again, you could just leave the B as is, write the R to a different cell, and then come back to the B, subtract 1, and then make it an A. Even using this method, the code produced by this language winds up being difficult to read, very long, and confusing. So what do you do to fix the problem, other than the obvious use another, probably more logical language? Nothing! Also, if you wanted to get user input, you could use the comma. Using that, I managed to make a simple program that adds 2 numbers together. It only works with the numbers 0 to 9, and it can only add from 0 to 9, so it's basically useless if you actually wanted to do some serious math. If you actually did add up past 9, you would just get the ASCII character that corresponds to the number you would have gotten, plus 48 needed to output 0. Therefore, the number 10 winds up being a colon. Anyway, I will be leaving the programs that I made in the description. If you want to try out the language yourself for some reason, I will be leaving a link to an interpreter in the description as well. Anyway, thanks for watching, goodbye!